I want to welcome all of our attendees that have started to roll in. I appreciate you joining us and a two-time NBA champ, Shane Battier. Thank you, Shane, for joining us for this week's GlobalPro webinar. I really appreciate you taking time out of your, I'm sure, busy schedule despite your working conditions, which most can't argue with. After a couple days, but a few months, I think we might all get stir crazy. You might agree. How are things there at home with you, you and the family?
You know, we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there, making the most out of the situation. It's not ideal, but you know what? We're healthy, we're safe, and you know, we're getting to spend a lot more time than we ever thought we would. So it's not all bad.
No, and I know you're a big family guy, so I can imagine getting some more time and FaceTime with the kids and the rest of your family is probably pretty enjoyable, as is for me. My wife and I, we had a child and like within a few days after they locked us all down. So we're getting really acquainted with our son very quickly. So we had our challenges, you know, the purpose of these webinars, Shane, as we shared with all of our attendees, is that we want to take a step away from the typical grind. We want to talk to a leader in our community, someone such as yourself that has taken a role within a significant organization that everyone knows in Miami and across the country and abroad. Thankfully for the international basketball circle, it's becoming more and more popular. And you've had an illustrious career getting to play with some of the biggest names in the sport, from coaches to players. And now you're active in the community with an incredible charity that I got to learn so much about here in my office before we got locked down, as well as the front office at the Miami Heat. And I saw that you dabbled a little on TV at some point. Maybe we'll get to see your face there a little bit more in the future. And before we got on here, I was so excited to learn something new that we obviously had no idea about, which is you've actually continued to enroll. And as a leader, I always say you never want to stop learning. So it was awesome to hear someone such as yourself, a leader in our community, a pillar, someone at the top of an organization like the Miami Heat, continuing to learn to continue to grow. So it's awesome. I'm excited to get into some of our questions, which obviously you got a little bit of cheat sheet on. So you got a bit of a head start on us. So want to get right into it and talk to us a little bit about what makes Shane Battier who you are today. What molded you to becoming the person you are today?
Oh man, well that's a pretty light question to start off happy hour on. First of all,
have a sip of your wine.
You know, golly, where do I start? Look, you know, Dan, I've been so lucky and so blessed to have the life that I've had, the career in basketball that I've had, the family that I've had. You know, I feel at this point I'm 41 years old, but I'm playing with house money. But you know, it really starts with my parents. You know, I was so lucky to have both my parents around, and actually my father passed away last week after a long battle with dementia and strokes. And so it's you know, it's actually been a fun time to relive a lot of the stories of my dad and how instrumental he was in my life. And my dad was, you know, I played for some amazing Hall of Fame coaches, but you know, I count my dad, Big Ed Battier, amongst the best that I ever played for. And what made my dad great, you know, everything that I was known for in my career as a basketball player, with the Miami Heat, at Duke, I learned when I was in kindergarten, first grade, playing for my dad in baseball and in football. He was never my basketball coach, and ironically. And my dad never talked to me about technique. It was never about, hey, you got to hold the bat this way, or you got to pass block that way. The things my dad talked about, you know, ad nauseum, were controlling the things that you can control. So he always harped on, you know, being enthusiastic, supporting your teammate, having a great attitude, shaking off adversity and moving on to the next play, you know, always having great sportsmanship, always supporting your teammates. And like, So for me as a kid growing up, those were lessons I thought every kid learned from their dad and from their coaches. And as I progressed in my sports career, I realized that I was so lucky to have someone who was so passionate about those things and not the wins and losses, not the techniques. And that really gave me a foundation, along with my mom and her toughness. My mom's the toughest lady I've ever met. This really gave me an amazing foundation for being about the team and understanding what it takes for the team to have success. And my career has never been about my individual accomplishments, although I've had a few. It's been about the teams I've been a part and have had a role upon. And I have my dad and my mom to thank for that.
No, it's incredible. I've had a very close relationship with my father, and certainly was a mentor to me, so I can relate in that regard. Thankfully, my father's still with me, and I express my condolences. And dementia is very tough. And anyone has ever seen someone with it and watching the onset of it, especially when they're kind of sort of there but not in that transition in life, it's a struggle, right? But thank you for sharing that with us. Again, something totally unexpected and something very deep. And I appreciate you sharing that with us and obviously our audience today. So you talked about your dad, and you talked about the lack of focus on wins and losses and more on technique and skill. That has helped you. From, I assume, an adolescent going to college. I'm sure you're a very proud Duke alum to being a two-time NBA champion. What are some of the highs and lows of your career as a professional basketball player that stick out most to you?
Oh man, well the highs are obviously the amazing championship runs I've had and the teammates that I've had on my journey. But you always remember like the hard parts more than the successes. At least I do. I remember just being that skinny kid and growing up outside Detroit, Michigan, from the suburbs. And when I was sixth grade, I was 6 feet tall. In seventh grade, I was 6'4" when I met my wife. Eighth grade, 6'8". I was always kind of this gangly, goofy kid, and I was a pretty good player, but I looked kind of awkward, still do. And when I told people I'm going to play in the NBA one day, I still remember people laughing at me and saying, Battier, you're from the suburbs, you're not athletic enough. They gave me all the reasons why I wasn't going to make it. And I always thought the one thing that no one could ever tell me is what I have inside my heart. And basically you're gonna have to kill me to keep me out of the NBA, and because I was as competitive as they came. And I remember the work. I remember the sacrifice. I remember the pain. Look, nothing in life that's worth anything is easy. If it were, everyone would do it. And you really are measured by what you sacrifice and what you give up, and how you become sort of steeled and hardened through the process. And that's what the journey was for me. Obviously, everyone remembers Miami Heat championships, playing with LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh. And
I was there every game. My wife and I, we had season tickets at that time. Ironically, before LeBron and Bosh announced it, we had made a commitment with the Miami Heat to do a big corporate sponsorship, and part of that was season tickets, and it was incredible. As soon as they started announcing that they were joining the team, and then that whole thing that came together, and watching you live do your thing every night, sometimes back to back, it was incredible.
It was cool. Yeah. But the coolest part about that, Dan, was when when you're going for a championship and you've never won before, and this is true for really any journey in life, you don't really know what it takes. All right, you think you do. You fight like hell, you work like hell, and you hope that the effort that you give is good enough to win whatever your championship is. And whether it's starting a business or writing your first piece of software or whatever it is. And then when you finally do it, for me, it was winning a championship. You're like, holy crap, that was so hard. And you realize all the pain that went into that journey and that climb was worth it. And then you do it again. And that's something that only people that succeed and people win, whatever their championship is, can appreciate. And that's what it was for me when I won my championships. Champagne and parties were fun, but it was a validation of an amazing journey.
No, I mean, and I want to highlight, and did it again, which is, I got to imagine, is like when you get done with that run, looking back and you've succeeded at that level, right? That's, you got that big contract, or you won the NBA finals. It's like, as soon as that wears off, then you got to get back, right? You got to go back to, the basics. You got to practice the skill sets of things that your dad focused on most. It was, you're back at 0-0, right? So you got to do it again. So it's like, and I got to ask you, if your dad didn't focus on wins and losses, are you and I know you have kids, so like, are you like a give a trophy to everyone kind of guy, or are you still a proponent of the championship trophy?
No, like I said, I was so competitive as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I would I play within the rules, but I would do everything in within the rules to win the game.
You're still winning.
I was like hyper competitive, super, and still am to this day. And I beat up on my kids, playing basketball or playing tiddlywinks, whatever we're playing, I'm trying to beat them.
Yeah.
And so my dad was competitive too, but he taught me to compete in the right way, within the framework of sportsmanship, within the framework of the rules. And so, I think a huge part of my childhood was learning to win and learning to lose. You have to learn to lose to appreciate how to win. And you can be a bad winner, you can be a bad loser, but you're not going to be successful over the long run. And so, I am a huge proponent of my kids competing, getting knocked down, getting back up. I have a friend who says, struggle is good. Our brains crave struggle. The second our brains don't have struggle, a piece of our brains die. The key for our kids, in a world where they have so much more than maybe that we had, was for them to struggle well. And so, whether that's through competition, whether that's through learning an instrument, riding a bike, whatever it is, challenge our kids to struggle in a safe way.
Yeah, I like to say is that using the times of loss to learn, right? And turning that into a learning opportunity is always important. I talked about that with my team all the time about, when we have our struggles, like you talk about, is that, what did I learn from that? We learn more from our losses than we do the wins, right? So, through that adversity. So I think I echo your sentiments on it. I think that's, well received, especially for someone that's competed at the level you have. I think it's really important. And speaking of competing at that level, you've had quite a few coaches, or shall I say, I assume they are probably to you, mentors in life, such as Coach K. What is it like to play for someone such as him with the accolades and the success that he has had as a coach for so many years?
Well, I wouldn't be here without playing for Coach K. Just an amazing mentor and a teacher. That's how he describes himself. But
that's why I use the word, by the way, because I've watched his interviews and I find him absolutely compelling, because he consistently can take a group of individuals and make them play together. And as an owner of a business, I find it fascinating how he can consistently deliver all the time. And yes, he does recruit very well. But we've seen where that's failed. Just because you have a good recruiting class doesn't mean it delivers. I'm not going to make fun of look at their football team, right? They get some of the best players in the world all the time, and it doesn't really translate sometimes to the field. And for his, it seems consistent.
Yeah, well, the beauty of Coach K understands every person on his team, from the managers, the secretaries, the players. He knows exactly what button he has to push to get maximum production out of that person. Now, for some people, it was a kick in the pants. So I had teammates, I'm not going to name names, they got a kick in the pants every single day because that's what they needed. You know, for a guy like me, you know, Coach K couldn't question my toughness because we both knew I was tough. He couldn't question my intelligence because we both knew I was the smartest guy on the team. What he questioned was my ability to be the next great player at Duke and to handle the mantle of leadership. And like, that was like, ooh, those were fighting words. He said, well, Grant Hill never made that play, or Christian Laettner would have made that play. And I'm like, I'm going to make you talk about me like you talk about those guys. And that was the button he pushed for me. And, you know, Coach K, you know, we won a lot of games. We won a lot of games, you know, 133 and 15 in 4 years.
Yeah.
He never talked about, hey, we have to win this game. It was always about standards. And if we played to the standard of Duke basketball, wins and losses just happen. And that's really an important lesson that I learned at Duke, that, you know, the standards and what your potential is much more important than what the final score is. Because if your process is pure, your motivation, your energy, enthusiasm, and everything is to a certain standard, you're going to have success.
So how big is the stage at Duke when you were playing there? What is that like?
Well, you learn to accept that everyone's coming for you. Yeah. Right. So if you're a competitor, you don't mind getting people's best shot. You know, Coach K used to say, look, when the schedule comes out, whether it's North Carolina A&T or Chapel Hill, Carolina, they look at when do we play Duke, and that game is circled in red on their calendar. That is their game of the year. So imagine everyone you play against, they're giving you their best chance, their best energy, their everything, because you're Duke. And, you know, as a competitor, you love that, and you want people's best shot. And so you learn to enjoy the target on your back, and you enjoy the challenge that comes with that. So a lot of hostile environments, you know, a lot of you know, creative chants about me and my family, and you can name it. But you know, you learn to embrace it, and you learn to love seeing the fans leave early because you're kicking their ass.
I can imagine that's gotta feel pretty damn good. Well, I mentioned to you, Shane, before we got on, that we have some special attendees that I want to take an opportunity to invite on with us. A couple of them have some good follow-up questions to some of the things that we've been talking about, and want to give them the opportunity. And Elliot, our VP of Tech, is going to go ahead and I think at some point here, give them access, video access, to come on, ask some questions. I see Edwin jumped on with us here, and they're gonna, and it'll give them opportunity to engage you and get through some of the questions that they've already submitted. So we did a good job of grooming, if you will, for you. So don't worry, they're within the context of the cheat sheet we gave you. So we're doing all right here. Oh, there we go. Mr. Lugo, how are you? Christian.
How are you, gentlemen? Thanks for having us on. This is pretty impressive. Wow, Shane. Got to see we're representing here. Got my son, Christian.
I love it. Christian, Edwin, great to see you guys.
Yeah, same here, same here. Thank you. Thanks for having us on. So how are you?
I'm doing well.
All right.
Trying to get better, like everybody else. Trying to get better.
So you know, I'm in my role, and Dan and I go back many years. I'm a leader within my organization, and you know, we're constantly trying to find new and great ways to motivate our teams, and just, you know, from your perspective, you know, what are your successful traits? What have you seen be the most effective ways to get people to gain buy-in into what your ultimate goals are?
Well, you know, sometimes I was the best player on my team. Most of the time I wasn't. And so I never tried to go into a situation and sort of say, hey, look, I'm smart. I went to Duke. I know what we should do. Listen to me. All right. I had to learn to gain credibility. And you do that silently. You know, you show people that, you know what, I'm going to work hard. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to show up early. I'm staying late. All right. I'm about the success of the team. All right. I care about my teammates. And once you can convince people that, you know what, you really are about the health of whatever our journey is, now is the time you can maybe say a few words of advice. But people are very, very good at smelling a phony and smelling a fraud. And if you don't walk the walk, they're not going to listen to your spouting. And so, especially in a new situation, but in an old situation, really be cognizant of how you hold yourself and how you value the journey and the team. And if you do that and it's genuine, you'll receive permission and that platform to really ascend to leadership.
I think you make a great point there, Sean, and thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Christian. It was great having you guys on. Sean Estevez just joined us here. Want to give Sean an opportunity to ask you a question as soon as he goes live here. There you are. You're a little dark there, but we can see the outline of your head at least.
Yeah, hang on. Let me turn around so
Yeah, better to have the light in your face than behind you. Welcome, Sean, and Sean. Sean, you have any questions for Mr. Battier?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say hi. One of my best friends went to Duke, so I support the Blue Devils, even though I'm a Gator. So I'm more of a UT fan, and I know we had a call with him last week. But big Heat fan. Thank you for bringing home those championships to Miami. I really appreciate that. It was great energy for the city. We were out there at the parades and at the finals games watching you work hard, and so we appreciate what you did for the city. I hope you're staying safe and your family's staying safe, and I hope to see good things coming from your way that we can look forward to help the community during this time and the city of Miami. So just wanted to say hi.
Thanks,
thanks.
Sean. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's times like these where you realize you live in a great community of people who care and want to do well for the people around them. And so I hope that's what comes out of this madness, that we all come together and are a little more empathetic towards each other, a little more understanding, and realize that we're only going to go as far as we take each other. So obviously during a championship run, it's easy to do that, but you really see where people are coming from during times like these.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you for joining. It's great seeing you, though, by the way. It's been a while. Haven't had an opportunity to visit with some of these folks who I happen to know well. And so it's awesome for them to have joined us. We have a Heather Sabin. I think Elliot, is she up next? Let's see here. Well, while we wait on Heather to join us here, want to ask you about your community involvement. Sean kind of touched on it a little bit, and building on that. We had an opportunity, obviously, before the whole pandemic and the lockdown, to talk a little bit about that and how I was looking at, obviously, get involved and how truly community is a cornerstone of GlobalPro, and we always are looking for ways to give back. What is your charity meant for you, and how does the Battier Take Charge Foundation deliver on its message every day?
Yeah, well, it's great to talk to people like yourself, Dan, who do an amazing job, who understand how lucky we are, and how it's our obligation to help those who may need a little help. And that was my story growing up. I certainly had enough growing up, but there was never extra, and my family made a fight for everything that we had. And luckily I was always in a situation to become educated, and I realized a lot of kids weren't like me, and I said, if I ever make it, it's my responsibility and duty to give back and to help those kids who were like me, who had the drive, who had the passion, who had the intelligence to really maximize their potential through education. And so that's why we started the Battier Take Charge Foundation 10 years ago. My wife and I, Heidi, started this program, and we've awarded over $1 million in college scholarships to kids in at-risk situations, and that's something we're super proud of. And look, it does take a village to raise a kid, and there are a lot of great kids in our own backyard that can do great things, but just because of their zip code, just don't have the access to the opportunity. And so it's up to all of us I use my platform to raise money and bring people together to create opportunity. And that is the name of the game.
And you do a very interesting way you have this incredible venue or events that you put on. Favorite song, favorite singer or karaokeist? I don't know if this is even a word. Do we have a favorite talent that we saw at any of the Battiokes?
Yeah, Matt Brooks is on this call. Helps us throw a great event called Battioke every year. This year it was called Cabernet with Battier, because we love both karaoke and great red wine. But there's always karaoke, and we've had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. I've had Yao sing at Battioke when I've hosted it in Houston.
Yeah.
So, and favorite karaoke song. I'm a huge Oasis fan. So the last song is always "Don't Look Back in Anger" by Oasis.
Well, familiar with it. Do love Oasis. So huge fan of that as well. And no wonder why we get along so well. So Heather was able to join us. So I want to pass the mic over to Heather. Heather, go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for turning my mic on, Elliot. So Shane, I have a comment and a question as well. So you have such a calm and positive demeanor. And I know that when you step on the court, everyone's sort of relying on you and your leadership. My question is, what kind of strategies do you use to sort of shake that pressure off and just be able to focus 100% on what you need to get done?
Well, thank you, Heather, for saying that. I wasn't always the calm and cool. The best advice I received was fake it till you make it. And it's another thing I learned from Kay was the importance of body language and body English. And people don't talk about this. I don't know why, but humans are very perceptive. And Coach K never let us show the opposing team weakness. We were never allowed to put our hands on our knees to show we were tired or grab our shorts. We always had to have an air of confidence. Chin up, shoulders back. And he would actually show us video if we showed, us complaining to a referee or having bad body language. He's like, this is demoralizing. Yeah, this is demoralizing to your team. If your team, you're one of the captains, you're one of the leaders. If your team sees you act this way, how are they supposed to act? And so it became a habit, really, of, regardless of how dire things may be or how stressful, I'm always going to be the voice of calm, the voice of confidence, and the look of confidence. And it's funny, when you put that in your brain, I think you're able to handle stress better. And so even though I'm really nervous on the inside, I'm always aware of my teammates and how would my teammates react to me being nervous. So I try to be cool, try to be calm, and try to give that to my teammates. And I think that really, really works.
Are you finding yourself take that on-court personality and using it off-court now? I
was pretty intense on the court.
I've witnessed
I was pretty intense. So
yeah.
Civilian life is a little different than the NBA, but I think the same things still matter: preparation, enthusiasm, energy, positive attitude, and belief. Those things do translate from the basketball court.
No, I've seen you in public interacting with others, and and I think she made a good point about the calm demeanor. It's ironic when you see you on the court versus the Shane Battier off the court. Definitely, it's almost last week we had the pleasure of having Udonis Haslem on, another guy that on the court, off the court. I mean, totally. It's sometimes you can flick that switch, and it's amazing. You have such a jovial time with us on the webinar. We're all laughing, having a great time, and then you see him on the court. It's just a total different person. So during your career, whether college or professional, 3 toughest teammates or people that you may have played against.
Well, I'll put Udonis was probably my toughest. He's what you call a foxhole guy. If ever went down, I'm calling Udonis. All right, he has your back, and so I love Mr. 305. He's the greatest. The toughest guy I ever had to guard was Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. And Kobe and I had a really interesting relationship. He was 1 month older than me, and we had a lot of battles. And there have been a lot of stories and books based on our battles. And in a lot of ways, we were a foil of each other in our careers. And unfortunately, when he passed away, I was sad. Because I'd never talked to him outside the gym before, ever, not once. But wow. I did an awesome piece with the Wall Street Journal talking about I didn't know Kobe Bryant, but I did. And just lamenting the fact that we had, he brought the best out of me every single time because he was so mentally strong. And I knew if I wasn't at my best, I was going to be embarrassed. And even then, I was still embarrassed sometimes. But, in any adventure, any journey, you meet the most worthy adversary, and Kobe was the most worthy adversary because of everything he put into the game, and just an amazing competitor. And I'm sad that I'll never have a glass of our battles, and that's the tragedy, the personal tragedy for me.
I guess today is his daughter's birthday, and there's been a lot of tributes out there. So social media has absolutely, thankfully, has celebrated the Kobe that most of the public knew and got to see on and off the court around the world. So it's incredible for you to mention that, and I've read some of the pieces about you and him as competitors, and I assumed I was going to weave in there somewhere. So, but that's incredible. So and it's awesome to a guy like UD, who's like a player coach now, and doing all the things that he's doing. And we got to talk to him about his charitable efforts. Any plans for the charity if we get out of this situation here with the pandemic?
We're always looking to help more kids. We have a scholarship here in Miami where we award 1 to 2 scholarships through the Big Brothers Big Sisters, but we also adopted Miami Central as our home pilot program for a program called Guide, Giving Underserved Individuals Direction in Education. Last year, we graduated our first cohort of 22 kids, and we were able to give them the full prepay scholarship. So send 22 kids to school that would not have had a chance to go to school without the Take Charge Foundation. So now we have a mentorship program with a second cohort. I'm taking my first mentee for the first time, Jubert, and that's been a fantastic journey for me. But we're always looking to help kids in our own backyard who just need help. Yeah. And so however that can be.
No, it's fantastic. I gotta ask you, are you watching it? The Last Dance? Thoughts?
It's unbelievable. I've loved every second of it. So much of it was my childhood. Yeah. First of all, I'm from Detroit, and so I hated the Bulls. I hated you must have really hated the Bulls, you guys.
There's so much focus on them in the first 2 episodes. So
I hated the Celtics. I hated the Lakers. And so, like, you know, no one liked the Pistons because they were tough guys, and I learned a lot of my tricks from them. But just an amazing storyteller about Jordan and that era, you know, and that's you know, that I'll never forget going to those games and saying I'm going to be in the NBA someday. And so for me, it's like reliving my childhood and reliving my dreams.
So if you had to choose between the Tiger King or the Last Dance, which one are you watching?
Oh, Last Dance.
All right.
It's not even a question.
I know that wasn't on the cheat sheet, but I mean, I assumed you watched the Tiger King, because if you haven't, you live in a hole somewhere. Terribly entertaining, and terrible in many different ways. You can use that definition, but again, another documentary. I mean, you know, I feel like we've all gotten quarantined, and now everyone's just swallowing up these documentaries. I mean, if you said documentary, someone's like, you spit in their face. Now it's like, oh my God, there's something to watch. So very, very, very cool. We have a couple minutes and want to obviously wrap up. I know you, you know, it was such an amazing opportunity to have you on. Super excited to engage you again and talk and share the stage with you a little bit here. And ask you some questions, and we had some of our attendees join in. I want to obviously thank Matt Brooks and Alchemy Lafette for our delicious rosé and wine that I know Shane is enjoying as well with me. And before we send off, I wanted to offer a toast to new beginnings, to a new normal. And to your continued success with the Miami Heat and the organization. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us here today. We at GlobalPro are on the front lines working with small businesses all over the country to help them try to rebound from this. And it's going to take a absolute village, to use Shane's words. And we all are in this together. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Shane, especially for taking some time to be with us here. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate everything, and good luck, and stay healthy.
Thanks, Dan and GlobalPro. You guys made a generous donation to the Battier Take Charge Foundation. We appreciate you, and you know, we'll get through this. You know, we'll get through this and get through it together. And I hope that's the message that we take away today and through the weekend.
No, absolutely. I think it's great. And I encourage everyone to go to takecharge.org, takechargefoundation.org. Check out Sean Battier's charity. If you haven't seen the Battioke videos, definitely worth watching, since you're probably not doing much of anything else in the evening hours. In between the Tiger King and the Last Dance, definitely watch it. It's hysterical. Such a great time. Thank you again, Shane. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that joined us today.
Cheers.